Okay, I'm Ben, and this is presentation D, and my presentation is called Helping a Crow to Count. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a really difficult task here first. You've got 10 numbers here, and if you push the next one, superb. Which number's missing? I think we all know it's 7. It's a really simple task, but when you're starting to learn to count, it's not always easy to keep on top of numbers and know what's going to come next. How do the children learn? We've got numbers 1 to 10. They have to learn to count. And recently, the Welsh Assembly have changed the way they learn. They've gone from a more formal way to a much more experiential learning method. As the Welsh Assembly say, using a serious business of play as a learning vehicle. Having play as a key component of the learning process engages children and helps them develop other skills. Having them play, having them get involved, having them take an active interest in what they're doing helps them get more involved in what they're doing and helps them to learn and helps them get more stuck into the topic they're trying to do, such as counting from numbers 1 to 10. Superb. And the way we test them is through assessment. So I'll have a look at a few methods of assessment. 3 methods of assessment that are singled out by the foundation framework set up by the Welsh Assembly is individual work, small group work and large group work. Each level of this we can use to assess how kids are doing, how well they're learning, how well they're getting on with the topic. From individual work, we can see how they get on their own. Small group work, how they're getting on with small groups, how they interact with others. And in large group work, when they're sitting down as a large group working together or when they're with a teacher. Okay. So, a main problem we can try to hope to sort out is, are children being left behind? If the children are being left behind, we need to use a method of assessment to make sure that they're not getting left behind. And this, as Gervasoni said in 2003, is one of the main problems that teachers have. They don't want children to fall behind, but with a more rigid, formal style of teaching, that was one of the problems they had. The teaching method was too formal, it was too structured, and children weren't getting as involved or as engaged as they thought they might be. Okay? So, why are they getting left behind? Why are they not learning? Why are they falling behind in what they're meant to be doing? Is it because they're shy, nervous, quiet? Are they struggling? I was the shy one. I'd never said anything in primary school. I just sat there quietly playing with my Thomas the Tank Engine toys. But sometimes the kids are nervous, sometimes they're just quiet, they don't want to get stuck in, and sometimes they might generally be struggling with what they're doing. Okay? So, if they're struggling, what can we do to help them? We need to get them to ask questions, but how can we encourage them to ask questions? Children, as I said, they're not always keen to ask questions. So, when discussing a procedural matter, children, when they're speaking to a teacher, asked, push next, 73 questions. It's a lot of questions. But is it really enough? Is that really enough questions for the children to ask? Are they missing out on something? Are they still holding back? Is there something that they're missing out on? What could be holding them back? Okay? So, here's where I bring out my prop. Okay. This is Hector, and he's going to help you. So, with a puppet, how many questions did children ask? Okay. 263 questions on the same matter, purely because they were talking to a puppet and not to a person, which seems really stupid, but they do. Okay. The use of a puppet engages children. For some reason, and I've seen it happen in primary school, we were doing counting with the kids, and they all sat there, they're making a bit of noise, chatting away. Counting Crow came out, silence. Everybody watched. Everybody took full attention to the puppet, and all it did was help them count. Okay. So, what does it do? It increases engagement in the classes. As Simon et al. 2008 said, having the puppet in the classroom, taking the lesson, seems to engage the children in a way that just having a teacher doesn't always do. It increases their motivation. They feel more motivated to help out. Sometimes they don't see that they're helping out the teacher, they're helping the puppet understand the topic, so they're more prepared to talk. And also delivers the information in a new way. If I've taught you how to count from numbers 1 to 10, and you didn't realise that I've missed out number 7, I could sometimes explain it in a different way with a puppet, which is a bit more friendly, a bit more engaging for the children. They'll take more notice of the puppet than they will me telling them. So they seem to learn it in a different way. Okay. There's 3 more main topics which I think are key in this, really. diverting the attention away from the child asking the question. As we saw before with the 73 questions compared to the 263 questions, one of the problems that was singled out by Kuhn et al. In 1997 was that the children don't always like to be the focus of attention. If you're sitting in a big circle and you don't know what's going on, you want to ask the question, you won't, because everybody's going to turn to you and say, tell me, what's your question? And they don't talk. They don't want to be the centre of attention. If the puppet's there, everybody starts looking at the puppet and how the puppet talks. And as I can see, you start looking at the puppet as the puppet's mouth starts to move. So it's not you that's asking the question. Everybody's looking at the puppet and the way the puppet answers. Next one is act as a classroom role model. Children don't like to be wrong. And as Francis pointed out, they like to get rewarded for being right. So if they're not too sure, they're not going to say anything. So what they'll do, rather than ask anything, they'll just stay quiet. But what the puppet does, it acts as one of the children. The puppet might not know what's going on either, so if you know that there's going to be an issue that you think some children have struggled with, get the puppet to ask the question. Get the puppet to show that it's okay to be wrong, and that it's okay that you don't necessarily know what the answer is going to be, because other people will help you. Okay. A third one is helping those with learning difficulties. Schrant, Townsend and Poulsen showed that people who had learning difficulties were more engaged and showed more empathic responses towards a puppet than they did to the teacher and the other children. I've seen it again, children with ADHD, when he was walking around, he just having a nightmare of a lesson, causing a lot of trouble. The puppet came out and he sat there in silence because he wanted to help the puppet to learn. He wanted to show the puppet that he knew what he was doing and how to count. So, helping a crow to count. How does it do it? It gets children more engaged and motivated. It helps them develop their empathic responses. It encourages questioning. It shows it's okay to be wrong, and it helps develop understanding through discussion. And as I think it was the last slide, I think it is. Falstaff said, effective learning should include fluency, application of skills, even independent thinking, but this must be the result of effective teaching methods. And if using a puppet is an effective teaching method, it should be used. Okay. Any questions? I think that was the last slide. Yeah. Well, I saw some other research following from that was the use of puppets up to children in high school has shown to increase questioning and how engaged children are in it. So I would have thought, for children, having a puppet crow helping you count, brilliant. But children who are 17, 18 still seem to respond well to having a puppet in the classroom, and it still encourages more questioning than it would do if you were just speaking to a teacher. Yeah, it's not on you. It's not like if the teacher's going to moan at you for getting it wrong, the teacher won't, because you're talking to the puppet. You've asked the puppet the question, not the teacher. So.
You were talking a lot about motivation and okay, but do you think that using a puppet is focusing a little bit too much on the process rather than the outcome of teaching? Because is the puppet okay? I'm referring to Snyder's method.
Yeah.
I saw it was mentioned a lot, but do you think focusing too much on making it fun and interesting is taking the emphasis away from the outcome, which is improving their understanding of learning, and focusing more on the process?
It could be taking more away from the end process, but if having it fun and engaging affects the end process in a positive way, I don't think it matters too much about how you go about teaching it, as long as the outcome's the outcome's good. Which is why you then probably go back to assessment, and then after you've done that assessment with the puppets, see if you've made it more fun, more engaging, and more child-friendly. It might not be, I don't know, maybe as formal or as structured as it should be, but you could assess them again afterwards with another written task, another group task, in a smaller group to see if they have understood what's happened after that. So maybe not use it as the only method of teaching, but use it as another method to try and get to the desired end response. I haven't found anything like that yet. I have been looking for stuff like that, and I've found a few little bits. One of them was in the TES magazine, There's some stuff on puppetry in classrooms there, and it showed that it does have some level of increase, but I think that's probably down to children being more engaged and more motivated to take part than if it was just a small group classwork with a teacher. But I'd like to look more at that. So, anybody else? No? Excellent. Oh, yeah, go. Oh, yeah.